I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 126, Worrying. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on a screen. You are not just the porn addict's wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed, because I've been where you are and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS Faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you? Happy Monday morning. I hope you guys had a great weekend. We had a wonderful weekend. We had soccer on Saturdays. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you can, at Jolene Wynn Coaching. You guys can see little sneak peeks of my life. Like, you guys don't hear enough of me on a podcast weekly. But if you want to, you can go follow me and you would see, like this weekend, my son had a soccer game on Saturday morning. And so there was just a cute little picture of my kids with my husband sitting at a soccer game. And my oldest, she's always reading a book. She loves to read. So that's what she was doing, was reading at the soccer game, and it was an amazing weekend. My husband and I repainted our deck, or stained it. We restained our deck, and it's just been a great weekend. We had church today and just spent time with friends and family and had dinner together and a little bonfire outside in my sister's backyard. And it was amazing, and life is wonderful. And you guys, I did tell my clients this week, I totaled my car. It was so sad. I'm okay. The other driver is okay. It was totally my fault. I was in a car accident and I was by myself. And so that was good. I was really grateful that I didn't have my kids with me. But here's the moral of the story, is that normally I get up and I go to the gym early in the morning before my husband goes to work, 6:30. And I had a headache. And this was on Wednesday, and I had a headache. And so I thought, I'll just sleep in a little bit. I don't work today, so I can go to the gym a little bit later. We'll start homeschool a little bit later, but that'll be okay. So I tried to sleep in a little bit, still had a headache, finally got up, got everybody ready, took myself, started going to the gym. It was like 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. And so it was cool enough that the inside of my windows had like not frosted, but were all condensed, right, and foggy. So my passenger side window, I couldn't really see out of very well. My windshield was fine. My passenger side window was fine, but my driver's side window, I couldn't really see out of. And I thought, that's no problem. I can see out of it just fine. And this was God saying once or twice, you should roll down your window. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Ladies, I was not fine. So I got to the stop sign going out of my neighborhood. And I looked left and I looked right, and I was like, I don't see any cars. You guys, I just did not see the car on my left because I couldn't see out of my window very well. Totally saw him. It was too late. We both tried to swerve. We missed. My car was totaled. His car was totaled. We were both fine again. Anyway, so this week I totaled my car and had to buy a new one. And moral of the story, my sister says the moral of the story is don't go to the gym. That's what she says is the moral of the story. That's what you get. That's what she said. That's what you get for going to the gym. I think that's what you get for, one, trying to sleep in. So moral of the story, don't sleep in. Just get up when your alarm goes off, because nothing good happens when you try to sleep in. And second of all, when God says, hey, Jolene, roll down your window, then you should probably do it. So just so you guys know, if you ever think, no, it's okay, I can see out my window, you can't. Just do the thing. And I'm just so grateful that everyone was okay and that it was all fine and that we worked it all out. But one thing that I was sharing with my clients is that there was a whole onslaught of emotions that came. Even though we were all fine, it was a whole lot of emotion. I felt responsible. I felt guilty. I felt stupid. I felt ashamed. I felt all of the emotions. Then I was anxious because we were going to have to pay for a new car, and that was not something we were planning on paying for. And I felt bad because then I totaled this guy's car, and even though insurance is going to cover it, it's still going to be a process. And so I felt bad for him, but then I also felt grateful for so many different things, that I didn't have my kids with me and that nobody was hurt and all of these things. And So there was just a lot of emotion that day. And so I gave myself permission to just sit and feel the emotion. And this is something that I want to encourage all of you guys to do, is that a lot of times what happens when we have an experience where a lot of emotion comes with it, sometimes we just try to busy ourselves so that we don't have to feel it. And a lot of this happens especially when there's negative emotion. And what I want to offer, ladies, is when you have such an experience where there's a lot of emotion, you just give yourself permission to feel it. And if you're in a place where you can do that, just set everything else aside. And that's what I did. I took a bath. I brought my kids home. I turned on a show for them. I took a bath, and then I read a book. And I just laid in my bed all afternoon, and I was very minimal with what I did with my kids, and I just allowed myself to do it. I just gave myself permission to take a day, to take a few hours. And by the late afternoon, I was totally fine, and most of the emotion was gone. But sometimes we, especially as mothers, but as women, we tend to not give ourselves permission to sit and feel all of the feelings. And so if you have a situation where you're feeling a lot, then I want to give you permission to do it, and to release all the judgment of it. Because some of the emotions I could easily talk myself out of. Even my husband tried to talk me out of a few of them. It's okay. Accidents happen. That's why they're called accidents. Even the insurance lady told me that line. She was like, it's okay. Accidents happen. It's all right. That's why they're called accidents. And everyone wanted to say, it's okay. You don't have to feel this way. And yet I just gave myself permission to do it. Right? You don't have to talk yourself out of how you're feeling. You can just allow yourself to feel it. So that was my experience this week. Life is 50-50, 50% positive, 50% negative, and just allow yourself to feel it. So that was what happened this week. We're all totally fine. I have a new car. Well, it's new to me. And I'm so grateful for all of it. And I just wanted to share that with you because life is 50-50 even as a life coach. Okay? And you still feel emotion. Okay, but today, one more thing, ladies, that I wanted to tell you about so that I don't forget. Okay, I know that trust is one of the most common areas of difficulty for my clients and for my listeners. And so I am hosting a brand new masterclass called How to Trust. And it is going to be October 24th through the 27th. You can sign up on my website. If you go to jolenewind.com, you will see a tab that is called How to Trust. You can sign up there. It is $19, and you can come all week long. The classes are going to be between an hour to an hour and a half. I'm going to teach you how to put trust back in your control. Most of us think that trust is something where we're kind of just waiting for him to change so that we can change whether or not we trust him. Our trust is kind of at the effect or at the mercy of his actions. And I want you to come to this class so that I can teach you how to shift that in your brain. I'm going to teach you what trust actually is, which is different than what we think it is, and how to put it back in your control so that you can decide whether or not you want to trust him. You make that decision on purpose, and it's completely within your ability to control. If you don't know how to do that, if you're struggling with trust, come join this masterclass. Again, go to my website, jolenewind.com, go to the How to Trust tab and sign up. It's $19, and if you register, even if you can't make the calls live, you get access to the recordings. And I would highly encourage you to do this if you guys are struggling with trust. So again, that's October 24th through the 27th. And I'm so excited about this class. This is, again, the number one thing that I see women struggle with. And I'm really excited to be teaching it to you in a brand new way that enables you to apply it. And then I will be coaching you through it. So I would encourage you to come live so that you can bring your questions and I can help you apply it to your specific marriage and situation. So I'm so excited about that. So go to my website and sign up, and I will see you there. Okay, but today let's talk about worrying, okay? I think we spend too much time worrying. And here's the thing about worry, is it feels really, really important. My husband was actually texting me about this. I was already planning on talking about worrying because it was coming up with my clients quite a bit, then my husband texted me this week and he was talking about finances. Think about something that you guys worry about. My husband worries about finances, worries about money. I worry about money. Some of you might worry about your husband relapsing or whether or not he's lying, right? That has to do with trust. So come to my trust class. But a lot of us worry, or we worry about our kids, right? Or we worry what other people will think of us. Worry feels really important. So again, my husband texted me earlier this week and he said, he's like, my brain wants you to worry about money the same way that I'm worried about money. And so I sent him a text back and I said, if you don't want any coaching, then don't read this text. But if you do, then you can continue. But basically I said, what is your definition of worrying? What does your brain think worrying is? And why does your brain think that that's important? And he said, my brain thinks that it is really important for you to worry. And what worry looks like is you talking about it and stressing about money and verbally communicating that you're worried about money. And then I will know that it's important to you. And that's something that is, and he said, and if it's important to you and if you're worried about it, then that means that my worry is validated. Right? Have you guys ever thought this? Okay, I just want to tell somebody and I want them to say, oh yeah, you should be worried about that so I don't feel like I'm going crazy, right? Do you guys ever think this? That's what my husband said. It feels really important to worry. Our brain often thinks that if we worry about it, it means something. It means that we care, right? Our brain thinks if we don't worry, then it means we don't care. The other thing that our brain thinks is that if we worry about it, it will somehow, maybe we'll come up with a solution that will prevent it from happening, right? It thinks that worry is really productive. Worry is not a productive emotion. Think about the things that you do when you worry. When you feel worried, what you do is you sit in your thoughts and your thoughts just spin, right? And we exhaust ourselves working in circles around it, okay? Now, it feels like it's productive because your brain is working, it's spinning, it's going in circles in thoughts. However, it doesn't actually produce anything. When you are coming up with something productive, that's coming up from a different emotion, not from worry. Does this make sense? Now, again, one of the things that our brain likes to do is it likes to worry about things because it likes to think that worry means that it's important. And it thinks that if we aren't worried about it, then it means we don't care. And I want to caution you guys against this and offer that that's not true. You don't have to worry about your husband relapsing. Did you know this? You don't have to do that. And that doesn't mean you don't care. But that's what our brain is fearful of. Our brain is fearful that if we don't worry, it means we don't care. If I'm not worried about my husband relapsing, it means I don't care if he relapses. That is not true, ladies. Those are two different things. I give you permission to care whether or not your husband relapses, but not to worry about it. Does that make sense? Now, here's one thing that I saw happening this week with one of my clients, and this can often happen as well. A lot of times, the reason that we worry is because of a fear that we have, right? There's a fear that we have and it comes up, and our brain doesn't want to feel the fear, so instead, it tries to worry itself out of it. Okay, I have a fear of my husband relapsing. So rather than just feel the fear, what our brain does is come up with all of this anxiety or worry, and we kind of sit in the worry because it's easier and feels better to sit in worry than it does to sit in fear. But what we end up doing is we exhaust ourselves going in circles around our fear. When you think about what you're actually worried about, usually it's something we're afraid of happening. Why? Because of how we will feel when it happens, or how we think we will feel when it happens, right? Our brain wants to avoid that, so it looks for red flags. You guys following me? If you're afraid of your husband, if you have a lot of worry about what your husband is doing and when you leave or when he's gone, and you have a lot of worry about whether or not he's going to relapse, that's usually coming from a fear of him relapsing. Why are you afraid of him relapsing? Usually it's because of how we think we will feel if he does. Well, because when he relapses, then I feel alone. Then I feel worthless. Then I feel hopeless, whatever it is that comes up. And our brain doesn't want to feel those emotions. And so instead it thinks, okay, that thing, that relapse, that circumstance creates all of this negative emotion, so let's avoid it. okay? And our brain wants to worry about it because it thinks worrying about it is how we'll avoid it, right? So this is when your brain starts to look for red flags. Okay, all right, well, the last time he relapsed, it was when I went on a trip. And so red flag would be you going on a trip. Or the last time he relapsed, it was when he went on a trip. So it's red flags of when he's on a trip, or if he spends too long in the bathroom, or if he's always on his phone, or whenever he watches a movie and you think he should look away and he doesn't, or the opposite. You're watching a movie and he looks away at a time when an attractive woman comes on the scene and your brain is like, oh, red flag, he must find her attractive. If he finds her attractive, then XYZ will happen, right? Your brain goes on high alert, right? It creates this state of anxiety and worry, and it just kind of sits there, and it gets mentally exhausting. Now, again, it feels really important. It feels like, no, I should look out for these red flags, because if I look out for these red flags, then I'll be more prepared when the circumstance that I'm afraid of happening happens. Okay. This is a lie. Your brain thinks that if you worry about it in advance, it'll somehow make you more prepared. And what it means by more prepared, it means that you will not feel as negative of an emotion or as much negative emotion when that circumstance happens if you worry about it coming. You guys follow me? If I worry about my husband relapsing and I'm constantly on edge, constantly looking out for red flags, signs that it might be happening, then I'll be more prepared to feel the negative emotion when it happens. Then it won't hurt as bad. You guys ever thought this? If I expect it, it won't hurt as bad. The answer is that that's not true, ladies. That is a lie. It is a lie that our brain believes because it wants to feel like its worry is important and productive and doing something. This is what your brain wants to do. It thinks, okay, I want to avoid that negative emotion, so let's look out for it. But looking out for it doesn't actually mean, hey, if I notice signs, see it. It's like, no, I'm almost going to create the signs. I'm going to interpret everything that I see as a sign, as a red flag. And you put yourself on such high edge alert status that you create this mental exhaustion all around trying to avoid feeling a fear. Did you guys notice this? What you're really afraid of is that he might relapse. That's the fear. And because you don't want to feel the fear, instead you sit in worry, you circle in worry and anxiety because it feels more important to do that. But then your brain gets so tired. Instead, what I want to offer is you simply feel afraid. And then you recognize, why am I so afraid of this thing that I'm afraid of? It's because of how I think I'll feel when it happens. But then you remind your brain, this is when you have to be in charge of your brain. You say the worst thing that can happen, you remind your brain when it says, oh, it's because if I do this, if he does that, then I'm going to feel vulnerable, that I'm going to feel worthless. I say, that's okay. That's just an emotion. That's just a feeling. And the worst thing that can happen when I feel feelings is I just feel them. And I'm getting really good at feeling my feelings. That's something that I say to my clients all the time. We work so much on helping them feel their feelings, process their emotions. And that's why I teach them all the time. When your brain is afraid of an emotion, you just say, that's okay. It's all right. You don't have to, I can be afraid of that emotion, but I can also just notice that that's just my brain wanting to avoid pain. But it's just an emotion. And I'm getting really good at feeling my emotions. They're getting experts at it, okay? Now, here's what I want to offer you too, because this came up with my clients this week. When the action we fear is not in our control, we kind of tend to worry endlessly with no result, except for mental and emotional exhaustion. Okay, I'm going to say that again. You ready? When the action that we're afraid of, when the circumstance that we're afraid of is not in our control, we worry endlessly with no result except mental and emotional exhaustion. This is why you feel like you have nothing left. Now, one of my clients came up with something that felt very productive, which is a backup plan. Have you guys ever had this happen? This was adorable. She's like, I feel like she's so afraid of, she wanted to tell her parents about about what was going on, but she had all of these thoughts and all of these fears about it, and she tended to worry, and she was going through all of these scenarios in her brain. My husband used to do this all the time, and I have so many clients that do this. Okay, she was like, okay, well, if I say this and they respond this way, then this might happen. It's kind of like an equation. It's like, well, if A happens, then B might happen, which then would equal C. But the problem with this is that then your brain, when you allow yourself to sit in worry, what it does is it ends up going, okay, well, if A1 happens, then B2 could happen, which might equal C3. But what if it's A1 or A2 or A3? But then if it's B, it could actually look like B1, B2, B3, B4. Like there are so many variables that your brain then tries to solve for that it creates an endless number of scenarios that you don't actually know are going to happen, that your brain is trying to predict what will happen. And again, just remember that your brain wants to predict what will happen so that it can feel more prepared. But what if you just say, the only backup plan that I need, this is what I told my client. I said, I'm going to give you the only backup plan you're ever going to need. Ladies, are you guys ready? You can write this down too. The only backup plan you ever need is I can totally handle this. Or I'll figure it out. That's it. That's all you need, ladies. That belief right there is going to be enough of a backup plan for any situation you are ever in. So when your brain wants to sit and worry and thinks that it's really important to come up with a backup plan, okay, what if this happens? What if my husband relapses? What's my plan? Okay, well, the only thing that you ever actually need to know is, I'll figure it out. I have total belief in myself. I can handle this. I can do it. That's all you need to know. And then you shut your brain down because your brain's going to be like, yeah, but how? You don't need to know how. Your brain wants to know how. You don't need to. Your brain will just sit and worry, and it's never actually going to produce a result of knowing how. It's just going to worry about how because it doesn't actually know how yet. And that's okay. You just have to remind your brain that you don't need to know the how. You can just believe that you can figure it out and that you don't have to worry about it yet. I don't have to worry about that. We're not there. It hasn't happened. Again, remember that worrying comes when our brain is trying to predict the future, and the only frame of reference that it has is everything that's happened in the past, right? Your brain can't actually predict the future, but it's going to your past. It's saying, okay, what has happened previously that I can kind of project into the future and become aware of and look for red flags to see whether or not it's going to happen again, right? That's what your brain is trying to do. It thinks that you'll be more prepared. But worrying doesn't make you more prepared. It makes you more exhausted. So if there's something in your life that you're finding yourself worried about, I want to offer that you let it go, okay? And it doesn't mean that it's not important to you. And it doesn't mean that you're indifferent to it. All it means is that you're giving yourself permission to let go of the worry. Okay. Now this takes some training and being in charge of your brain, because remember, your brain is going to be worried because it's afraid of something that's going to happen. Okay. So when you try to drop the worry, your fear is going to come up, right? The worry is kind of circling around the fear. And when you drop the worry, the fear is going to come up and it's going to be like, yeah, but what if it really does happen? And then you say, you know what? If it does, then the worst thing that can happen is I'll feel a feeling. And that's okay, because the worst thing about feeling feelings is you just feel them. And I'm getting really good at feeling my feelings. Ladies, I love you. I give you permission to stop worrying. It's not necessary. It doesn't mean that it's important to you. And all it's doing is creating more emotional and mental exhaustion than you need. I love you, ladies. Stop worrying. I've got you. All right, ladies, I love you so much, and I'll talk to you next week. So take care. All right, ladies, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take it to the next level, and we actually start applying and learning the how of moving forward. This podcast has taught you the what, and the coaching program is where you're going to learn the how. This is where you learn how to actually start moving forward, process all of that pain that you feel, and let it go once and for all. If you are ready to finally move forward and stop living a life that revolves around your husband's pornography addiction, then I want to invite you to come join me today. Just head to my website, joleneWayne.com, and sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.